Hello everyone and welcome back to another Marvel Crisis Protocol Battle Report. Today for you we have a big 20 threat match, and it's the Defenders trying to go up against the Terror of the Dark Dimension, aka Dormammu and his thralls, since he can bring whoever he likes and still be Dark Dimension. So the Defenders are going to do their best in this large match. Let's take a look at the two teams, their tactics cards, and get started. So here are our Defenders, being led by the old version of Doctor Strange, just normal Doctor Strange, not the Sorcerer Supreme version that's out, although he will be here sooner or later on the table, just needs to get painted and whatnot. But he's leading the force you see today. He's brought Wong right behind him, his faithful manservant. Then we also have Hawkeye and the starter box Spider-Man, and best friends Iron Fist and Luke Cage. Pretty formidable force, I think. And their tactics cards are Seven Sons of Cinnabis, Pentagram of Farala, All You've Got, Medpack, and Advanced R&D. And here is the Dark Dimension team, who is just Dormammu himself. Everyone else is just under his control. And because it's a 20 threat match, even though he's 8 threat on his own, it does give him a lot to play with. So on that note, he is brought along under his spell today. We have Omega Red, we have Drax, we have Proxima Midnight, and we have Okoye. Quite a very eclectic mix. We'll see if they gel well together under his influence. He's feeding them extra power, but if they have 6 or more power, he feeds off their power and they take damage. So we'll see how that works out. And their tactics cards are Dark Restoration, Dark Empowerment, I can never say it. Karma Chameleon Synthesizer, Brace for Impact, and Reversal. And here is the two Crisis cards being played today. The Secure was Terrigen Cloud, Sweep Over City, which is the threat value picked. So there's 2 Terrigen Clouds on each side. 2 victory points for each one you hold in the cleanup phase, but they also get moved and poison people, which could affect power generation. The other one picked for the Extraction is the Research Station, so the researcher's in the middle of the map, and you want to take it to the research station that is furthest from where you started. Let's not make the same mistake as last time. 2 victory points for being the one who's securing the researcher, plus an additional 2 if you actually get him to his research station, although that's very, very difficult. So, Research Station 1, Researcher, Research Station 2, and Terrigen Cloud 1 and Terrigen Cloud 2. So we'll get both sides set up and then see who's going first. So here we are at deployment, all set up and good to go. The Defenders are on your left, Dark Dimension is on your right, and it is the Dark Dimension that is claiming first activation for Battle Round 1. Dormammu and Drax are down here. Then we have Proxima, Omega Red, and Okoye up here. And perhaps not surprisingly, the Defenders kind of started clustering and then also as far away from Dormammu as possible with some of their weaker members. So they're basically just in a big old line there, up to the line, and they're going to try and steer clear of him, I guess. We'll see what happens though as we jump into Battle Round 1. So Dark Dimension selected Drax to go first, or I guess Dormammu pulled the strings to make Drax go first, that's how everyone I think about it. He double medium moved around the rubble of the building here, so ended up kind of there-ish, and then moved over here so that he is currently controlling the Terrigen Cloud over here. I guess that could technically change, like Spider-Man can definitely make it over here, but obviously Dormammu is just sitting there waiting for a target. Wong was first up for the Defenders. He meditated, which is an action to give himself an extra power. He then spent his 2 power to give 1 power to an ally within 3. He gave it to Iron Fist, and then he moved his medium move just up the field as far as he can go, kind of hedging his bets halfway between the Terrigen Cloud over there and of course the researcher who's hiding in that park in the middle of the map, or bike shed, whatever it is. Omega Red stepped up to the plate next. He only moves small, but he is on that larger base, which kind of evens out to a fair movement. He did double move for his turn, which put him smack dab in the middle of the map and contesting the researcher there. Now he can easily be contested by the enemy team. However, any enemies that end their activation within range 2 of him get poisoned, and that helps feed into his abilities. So he's creating a nice little danger zone there for anyone who decides to contest the researcher against him. Simple enough activation for Hawkeye next. He just medium moved twice to claim the Terrigen Cloud, kind of copying what Drax did on his turn as well. So each cloud has 1 person on it currently. Okoye was next up for the Dark Dimension, and she medium moved twice in order to get into the center there with the researcher. And again, Omega Red's Death Spores, which is his Aura 2 poison, Specifically states it only affects enemy characters. Luke Cage activated and medium moved to theirs and then into the bike shed area here, so that he is also contesting the researcher, and of course he does get poisoned by the death spores. I don't think he's immune. I don't think anyone here is immune to poison because there's no Inhumans here. So he is poisoned for his trouble, but at least he started contesting the researcher, although obviously the Dark Dimension still are securing it because it's 2 versus 1. Second last activation for the Dark Dimension in a quick battle round 1. Proxima Midnight. She moves along, but she still needs to use both movements in order to get up there to contest the Terrigen Cloud, just to force another defender if they want to claim majority on that to get up there after her instead of going towards the middle. Iron Fist moved up medium and then initiated a range 3 flying kick. 4 physical dice, generates them 1 power, and more importantly you can get placed within one of the target after resolving. He hit Proxima Midnight for 2, but she reduces damage received by 1 to a minimum of 1. So that is why she's taking 1 damage over 5 I think she has on her healthy side. So now it's over to Dormammu to end off the turn for Dark Dimension, and then Doctor Strange and Spider-Man get to do something. So Dormammu did activate, and he just medium moved twice in order to help Drax secure this cloud here. Although a couple of reminders about how Dormammu works, because he's only been on the channel once before and he is new, and still not out yet in some places as I understand it. He only generates 1 power, regardless of how much damage he takes from enemy effects. However, when any of his thralls take damage from an enemy, such as Proxima just did from Iron Fist over there, he generates 1 power. Also, if any of his team ever get hurt by having 6 or more power, thanks to his affiliation bonus, so the full team, he also receives 1 power from that, so he doesn't mind if his team starts getting a little bit hurt. So we can actually cover both of those activations right now, as they both did the same thing. They both needed 2 moves to get into the centre here. Now technically you're not supposed to be able to leave a miniature where it's kind of wobbly or squint like Doctor Strange is, but if it didn't count then it would be unfair that the Dark Dimension has a nice clear area and this side has the barricades. So we're counting it as being an acceptable move, and Spider-Man's long move was enough to definitely get him into there. I need to go grab some poison tokens though, because they are obviously both poisoned for being within 2 of Omega Red, but they have secured the researcher for the defenders. So at the end of a fairly quick battle round 1, here's how things stand. The defenders held the researcher in the middle of the map for 2 victory points, and they held 1 Terrigen Cloud for 2 victory points. The Dark Dimension held the other Terrigen Cloud. So the defenders were allowed to move the researcher. They have to move them towards the opposing deployment zone because that's the base they need to get them to. So the researcher got moved right to there. Was it difficult getting him out of that cluster without knocking everyone over? Yes it was, thank you for asking. And also Omega Red has spread poison to Doctor Strange and Spider-Man as previously stated. The Terrigen Clouds technically move in the... actually no, he moves in the power phase, but just did it now. The Terrigen Clouds move in the cleanup phase, I believe. Yes. So, this Terrigen Cloud didn't really get moved, and then anyone within 1 suffers 1 damage and takes the poison effect. Now Dormammu is immune to a lot of stats effects, but poison ain't one of them. So he has been poisoned, and so is Drax. 1 damage each. And then over here, the same can be said after the Terrigen Cloud was moved here for Hawkeye and Iron Fist. And with that we're ready to go into battle round 2, get everyone powered up, although everyone with poison will be getting 1 less than their due. And it's the Dark Dimension taking first activation again. So Omega Red got battle round 2 started for the Dark Dimension, and he first used Death Factor. So he and any enemies within 2 that are poisoned take 2 damage. So he took 2 damage, Spider-Man took 2 damage, Doctor Strange took 2 damage, Luke Cage took 2 but reduced down to 1 because of his invulnerable skin. And then just so he's helping to still claim the researcher where it's moved, he just opted to do a move action and went over there. Though actually, Death Factor isn't an action, is it? It is not, so he actually does still have another action. He doesn't have enough power to do the one that can potentially heal himself. But yeah, he actually can still do his coils attack. Alright, 1 quick Carbonadium coil... oh, hey, I said it right. Coil attack later, Spider-Man took 1 additional damage, so he's taken 3 of his 5. And now it is over to the defenders, first activation for battle round 2. So we're staying in the middle as Doctor Strange was the first one to activate for the defenders. He spent all the power he had on Oster's Refuge, whatever it's called, to heal 3 damage from Spider-Man, so Spider-Man's back to full health. He moved medium and plopped himself there, so he's within 1 of the researcher, and also filling enough space there that there isn't enough room for Dormammu to fit in. And then he just used his bolts of bedazzlement, shot them into Okoye's back, or the thrall that looks like Okoye, got 2 damage through on her, and it also pushed her small. and he had a shield in his roll as well, so he's generated 1 extra power on top of the damage he did. But of course Dormammu also gets power because one of his thralls has been injured. Second up for the Dark Dimension was Proxima Midnight, and she ended up staying still. On paper, this should have been an easy thing. She spent 4 power on Quantum Starburst, 6 energy attack against Clint, who of course only has 2 energy defense. It did no damage. He fully blocked the little bit of damage that did get through for it. So then she just did her basic Spear Blast, or Spear Throw, sorry, which is 5 energy dice against him. That did get through, but only for 2 damage. So a 6 energy and a 5 energy against 2 energy defense, and she managed to do 2 damage to a 4 health miniature. That is not what you want to see from someone like Proxima Midnight. Spider-Man activated for the Defenders next. He spent 3 power on Webapult to pick up Okoye and chuck her small into the traffic cone there for 1 damage. I guess technically a traffic cone should be destroyed, but it doesn't really matter. She is 1 away from death and has more than 6 power on her now. I believe she's up to 7. So even if no one else touches her in the power phase, Flames of the Fall Teen will take her out and daze her. He didn't throw a Mega Red because he's size 3 and Webapult was size 2 or less, in case you're curious. He moved up, so he's helping to claim the Researcher there. Then he did his basic 5 dice strike, and it spiked something fierce. It did 5 damage, reduced to 4 because of a Mega Red's roll that reduces damage received by 1 to a minimum of 1. But that's exactly enough with the 2 he dealt to himself that he is dazed. So he is no longer contesting, but his body's in the way. Dormammu decided he'd had quite enough of this, although he didn't take his poison icon with him, so let's just do that real quick. He's also sitting on a bunch of power thanks to his thralls getting beaten up. So he spent 3 to move within 2 of his current position. It's called Notivis Dimension. Moved him up to this wall here, which you can obviously clearly see over, so it's not counting for cover or anything like that. He did Incantation of Obliteration for 5 or 6 power on Spider-Man. It's a mystic attack, so he doesn't get spider sense against it either, but it only did 4, and I say only because it is a lot of dice. Also did not get the combination required to do another free one. It requires a lot, like a crit hit skull shield, I think. But that left him on 1. Actually no, didn't he already have 1 health on him? I feel like he... No, he fully healed because of Doctor Strange, that's right. So because he was still standing, he just did his basic Flame Bolt, Hex Bolt. Scarlet Witch has Hex Bolt, he has Shadow Bolt, but it's basically the exact same attack. It did 1 damage, it also would have hexed him because of a wild, but it doesn't matter because that's him at his cap. So Spider-Man is dazed, so currently the only person holding the Researcher is Doctor Strange, but obviously it's tough to get anyone else stuck in there. Luke Cage wandered out into the street to deal with Okoye, did a Power Man punch on her, it only did 1 damage, but that was enough that she is dazed. And he did obviously feed a little bit of power into the big man as a result. But now Okoye won't be getting a turn either. So I think the only person not activated yet for the Dark Dimension is Drax. So because he wants to secure some points to keep the Dark Dimension gaining a little bit this turn, Drax has decided just to reposition ever so slightly. Still within 1 of that Terrigen Cloud though, so that he can score some points at the end of the round. Since Wong, Hawkeye and Iron Fist all get to go now, but none of them can make it over here because the Portal Tactics card has to be used in the power phase. So we'll be staying over this half of the table for the remainder of the round, but we'll cover the important stuff of each character if they do anything of interest. Wong moved up of the 3 still left to go, so he's within contesting range of that Terrigen Cloud there, and then he, for his other action, meditated for 1 power because he's going to be poisoned at the end of this turn, so he wants to still have a little bit of power gain. So Hawkeye stayed still and let loose 2 arrows into Proxima Midnight. The first one hit through for 1 damage, which I've forgotten to mark there, but that gave him enough that he could spend 2 power to heal 3 damage with Medpack, which he did, and then he shot his other arrow. However, Proxima then had enough power to do Martial Prowess, so you roll 5 defense dice instead of whatever you would normally do for a target within 2 or 3, and if you take no damage you deal 2 damage back. She blocked all the damage. So of that 3 damage Hawkeye just healed, or maybe he only had 2. Either way, he's got 2 back on him, essentially rendering his turn largely useless. Although when he did the 1 damage to Proxima, he inflicted shock on her, so she's rolling 1 less attack die. So that's not nothing, I suppose. And it is over to Iron Fist to end the turn. So Iron Fist did 2 chi strikes on Proxima Midnight. The first one did 2 damage, reduced down to 1 because of her invulnerability rule. The second one whiffed entirely. He did not have a good turn. He's sitting on 6 power, he needs 8 to actually use the Iron Fist, and he still generates 1 in the power phase despite being poisoned because he normally generates 2, so it is possible that he might be able to do it next turn. But that does take us to the end of the second battle round. with the Dark Dimension thralls taking a bit of a beating. So at the end of Battle Round 2, points have moved up in the same ratio as they did in the first Battle Round. The Defenders held the Researcher for 2 and 1 portal for 2. The Dark Dimension held the other portal for 2. The Researcher's been moved within 2. That does actually put him close enough to the right research station, because it's the furthest from where the Defenders started. If they still continue to hold him, that'll be worth 4, I believe, because I think he has to be within 2. If it has to be within 1, then he's still not close enough. The Terrigen portal down here got moved a little bit. Drax is going to take 1 damage. He's already poisoned. Wong is now poisoned, and he, Iron Fist, and Hawkeye are all taking an additional 1 damage as well. Now, when Okoye flips her card, as we move into the next turn and goes into the power phase, she's still got more than 6 power, so presumably she still also starts with 1 damage. But that feeds power into Dormammu, which is what he wants. So it was Omega Red who got the turn started for the Dark Dimension, because they maintain priority. However, forgot to mention in the power phase, or forgot to do this in the power phase rather, Pentagram of Farala is being used. Either Doctor Strange or Wong can spend 2 to do it. It was Wong. You place 1 portal within one of him, then you place the other end of the portal within 5. Any character within one of a portal can spend 1 power to get teleported to the other one. So he's bunged the portal between him and Iron Fist right there, and then within 5 over there, because they're making a big push for getting the Researcher over there. So anyway, you can already see what Omega Red did. He spent 4 power on Red Terror on Spider-Man. Doctor Strange spent 2 or 3, however much, for Horace Hoary Wisdom to give him 2 extra defense dice, but in the end it didn't matter. Would have done 4 damage, however, if he gets a wild in the attack, which he did, you steal Essence, which means you change one of the hits, crits, or wilds to a skull, or for every wild, sorry, you do this, and for every one changed that way, you gain power. So he siphoned power from Spider-Man and did exactly enough on his wounded side that the Defenders no longer have the numbers advantage, because he is gone. Iron Fist activated first for the Defenders, and of course you'll notice he's no longer there. It's because he's been playing with portals. First of all though, he did a basic Chi Strike on Proxima. She spent 2 on Martial Prowess again to get 5 dice. He spiked against her quite a bit though. 3 damage reduced to 2, exactly enough to daze her. She's not getting a turn. Then he spent 1 power to travel through the portal, so we'll have to come over here, and you get placed within one of the portal, which does mean he is contesting the Researcher there. Now sadly, the 1 power pay to get through the portal meant he didn't have enough to do the Iron Fist, which was the plan, jump out, Iron Fist, Omega Red. So instead he just did another Chi Strike, 2 damage, reduced down to 1, and he's already poisoned, so it doesn't matter that Omega Red would then poison him again. Dormammu decided to have a little bit of a showdown with Doctor Strange. He spent 3 to get moved within 2 with Not of This Dimension, which plopped him right there. And then he did 2 of his Shadow Bolts. Shadow Hexes. What the heck? Every time. Shadow Bolt. It is Shadow Bolt. The first one, Doctor Strange buffed his defense with 2 extra dice with Horace Hoary Wisdom, but he didn't have enough power after that. Oh, actually, no, he totally would have, because the hit he would have taken, it would have made a difference, because he had 1 health left after the first one smacked him, and then the second one smacked him for 4, so I don't think it would have made a difference, but he is going to have a bit more power than previously thought. He is dazed though, and that's an important daze, because he was going to move in and help secure that Researcher. I forgot to mention as well though, the Researcher does need to be within 1, he is not within 1, so the bonus points aren't available even if the Defenders do hold him this turn again. Also forgot to mention, if you're not familiar with Dormammu again, when rolling his, or calculating his successes for attacks, you count skulls in his roll and the opposing roll, which is why it was so, well, he only, quote unquote, only did 4 damage to Spider-Man earlier despite that. That's more like the consistent damage he should be doing. So Luke Cage activated and ended up at the top of your screen there, but first of all he spent 4 power on Sweet Christmas. He did it on Okoye, 7 physical dice I think it is, something ridiculous like that. Yeah, 7 physical dice, and all said and done it did a single point of damage to her. He did get a wild though, so he's allowed to throw her small if she's size 3 or less, which obviously she is, so she got smacked into this wall here for an extra 1, she's alive on 1 HP. He then medium moved and is now contesting the portal there, so that's going to kind of stifle what Drax can do now, unless he gets a push on him or something. So with Okoye and Drax left to go, Okoye activated first just to do a bit of a counterplay. She medium moved twice in order to help contest this Terrigen Cloud down here. Now she only has 1 HP left, so she's already dead when it gets to the power phase of the next turn, thanks to Flames of the Faultine, because she has too much power on her. And there's no way to siphon it or heal her But the scoring will happen first, so that's why she's helping do this. Wong activated, and because of the poison he was sitting on no power, so he meditated as an action to get 1 power, which he then spent to teleport through the portal, plopped him out 1 away from it, and then as his other actual action he had to move to get around Iron Fist, such that he's also holding the Researcher. So the defenders are still claiming him, but again he's not quite in range of the ship to get 4 points, which would be disastrous for the Dark Dimension. It's over to Drax for them now to end off battle round 3, and then back over to Hawkeye, who's probably just going to have to sit there to claim the portal and has no one to shoot. So Drax activated, and he spent 4 or 3 on Titan Killer, so it's a 3 base physical, but you add on 1 for every bit of damage, so that was 2 extra dice. He was just hoping for the wild, because then he gets the throw, and he did indeed get it, so he chucked Luke Cage back small, 1 damage from the impact, because the attack itself... No, actually no, the attack itself should have done 1 damage as well, so sorry, no, he does have 1 more damage on him. But he got thrown away from the Terrigen Cloud there. And as previously stated, Hawkeye just wants to stay there to claim those points, so we are just going to jump straight into the cleanup because he's activating and unactivating. So at the end of battle round 3, we've got to go over a few things happening, but first the points, of course. Defenders maintained control of the Researcher, they're doing the right stuff, so that's 2 there. 2 more for holding the portal up at the Terrigen Cloud up at the top there. However, it also damages Hawkeye now, so he's dazing as we go into the next turn. And then down here, the Dark Dimension held this portal again for 2 more, but Okoye is now removed, or as we roll into the power phase, via Flames of the Faultine, she gets killed by her own Dark Lord. The Researcher technically doesn't move until the power phase, but just moved it now to show where it will be. It is within range of the rescue ship, whatever it's meant to be. So as we go into battle round 4, the Dark Dimension is still going first. The defenders have 12 to their 6. If they hold on to just the Researcher and a portal, or both portals, they will win. If they hold on to just the Researcher next to the ship, they will also just win. So we'll see how that turns out. So Omega Red activated first in battle round 4 for the Dark Dimension. He's really been trying this match and he's been super effective. I remember last time he kept on getting pushed everywhere, so he couldn't really do much. He opened his turn by paying 2... Oh, also sorry, he did take 1 extra damage from Flames of the Faultine because he has too much power on him. But he spent 2 of it when he began his turn for Death Factor, which did 2 flat damage to Iron Fist and Wong. He then spent 4 for his Red Terror attack on Iron Fist to make sure he got him, and it's just as well he did because it only did 1 damage. But that was enough that Iron Fist is dazed and won't be getting a turn. He then did a basic attack on Wong, it did 1 damage, plus what he had from Death Factor. He's also dazed, so he got a double daze. Now he's not within 1 of where the Researcher ended up though, so currently no one is claiming it, but he did make sure 2 defenders don't get to do anything this turn. So with Hawkeye having dazed in the power phase and Wong and Iron Fist being out of commission for the turn, it left Doctor Strange and Luke Cage. So Doctor Strange activated and he just double medium moved. He can fly, so no impaired movement, over here so that he is claiming the Researcher. Now that will hopefully force some movements from the Dark Dimension, who still have Dormammu, Proxima and Drax. But there's obviously also still this portal here that Iron Fist, Luke Cage could potentially contest, but I guess we'll see. Dormammu activated and he just double medium moved such that he is contesting the Researcher, and also making basically sure there isn't any room in there for Luke Cage to fit in. So yeah, I think that means this turn is going to be a draw. Actually no, technically if Proxima was willing to give up the portal over there, she could totally claim the Researcher, because she moves long, so she could probably potentially fit in there. That might be worth it more just because they'd get to move the Researcher away. But Luke Cage might be able to get over there. Maybe not. I don't know. Let's do some measuring and see what she does. Yeah, Proxima activated, and because she can move long, she just double long moved into here. She could also have technically spent 1 power in the portal, but that would have been a waste of 1 power. So now the Dark Dimension is holding the Researcher and would get to move him away, and that could help keep them in the game, and that seemed like the best option. Luke Cage activated, moved up here to contest this Terrigen Cloud and used his Power Man Punch on Drax. 2 damage reduced to 1, however he did get double wilds, which means it has done stagger. Haven't bothered putting an icon down because Drax is the last to go anyway, but it does mean he's only doing 1 action, and it's going to be a Titan Killer to try and throw Luke Cage away again. Drax tried his best, but he was only able to do 2 damage reduced to 1. This is like 2 immovable objects just battering their heads up against each other. 1 damage apiece, and that does take us to the end of battle round 4. So at the end of battle round 4, the only points scored are for the researcher, and the Dark Dimension claimed him that turn. They will, well, again in the cleanup phase, but just done it now. They're moving him over there so he's between Dormammu and Proxima and away from the rescue ship for the defenders. That portal up there's got no one on it because Hawkeye's dazed. This one down here is a draw. Drax is going to be one hit away from death once the Terrigen Cloud procs on him as well. It'll probably get moved a little bit to the right. And yeah, that's about it. So as we go into battle round 5, it's the defenders going first for a change, and they just need to find a way to score 4 victory points. So top of turn 5, it was finally time for Iron Fist to unleash the Iron Fist. He did it on Omega Red, so enemies within 3 take 1 damage, so Dormammu and Proxima both took 1 from that. He did 4 damage reduced to 3 on Omega Red, and that was enough. The Omega Red, despite having a really good showing this match, I feel, he is out of there now, unfortunately. And then Iron Fist did a flying kick on Proxima. He can get placed within one of her, so he placed himself within one of the researcher, obviously. Did 2 damage to her with, I think she didn't got, no, she's not got, no, she should have. She should have 1 damage because she started the turn with 6 power. So she's actually at 4 of 6 or 5 on her wounded side. Yeah, I forgot she had more than 6 power, or 6 or more power when the turn started. So she's almost at risk of going down. So Proxima activated, she stayed where she was, so she's contesting the researcher, did a quantum starburst on Wong. They only did 2 damage, so she followed up with a basic strike, and it did 1. So he's alive on 1. Didn't bother putting the icons down, but he is poisoned, stunned, and bleeding, because he's not likely to attack. He'll need to get rid of the bleed if he wants to live, of course. But yeah, he's got all the effects, but not dead. So Wong activated, and he spent 1 power to heal himself for 2, then he moved and spent 1 to teleport through the portal here. Now he technically is bleeding, so he's taken 1 of that damage back, but the point is he's still alive on 1 health over here. So it is going to be the Dark Dimensions activation next, however, totally forgot that Dark Restoration needs to be in the cleanup phase of a turn that it gets used. So retconning a little bit, Dark Restoration, 6 power off of Dormammu to use it. One of the team that's been lost prior in the match, 3 threat or less, comes back within 2 of him. So Okoye is going to be there right next to the researcher. However, she would have been hit by the Iron Fist, so she's going to have 1 damage from that. But just retconning slightly that she should have been there. So Dormammu activated, and he paid 1 to teleport through the portal down here to cause some problems. He used 2 Shadow Bolts, 1 on Wong for 3 damage. Wong is out of here. He then also did 1 on Hawkeye. It did 3, thankfully it didn't kill him, because if it killed him I think Dark Dimension would actually have instantly been able to just say, hey, we're going to win, because of number differences and whatnot, especially with the Okoye coming back. But Clint lived on 2 health, which means that's simply contested at the moment. But the portal is also contested, if assuming Doctor Strange stays there, so that would be no points there either. Now, because of the retcon, Iron Fist might not necessarily have gone after that. He might have taken the portal as well. Can't fix that at this point. But we'll play on anyway. Luke Cage activated next for the defenders, and he Power Man punched Drax, 2 damage down to 1, but that was enough that Drax is dazed, and then he just moved into position for the portal here, so that could be important. So the newly reconstructed Okoye Thrall was the last one to go. She asked to stay there to help contest the researcher in case Strange decides to stay there, so all she could do was 2 spear blasts. She did them both on Strange. He Horath Hori Wisdomed both of them to make sure that he didn't take any damage, and that's exactly what happened, because he couldn't risk a spike. So no damage on him. I think he has 1 power left, or 2. But Okoye's done, and that is the game done probably for the Dark Dimension, because I think 2 medium moves for Strange is enough to... Oh, you know, he doesn't even need to go over there because Drax is down. So that's 2 for that. Yeah, he just needs to go, and also Hawkeye hasn't gone yet, but he doesn't need to. Strange walks there, pays 1 power, teleports, and they can claim both portals for the 4 they need, I think. I'll double check he has 1 power, and we'll be back in a second. Yeah, he had been sitting on 6 power and 2 Horath Hori Wisdoms for 2 each. Obviously left him with 2. So he just walked over to the portal, teleported, and now the defenders are claiming both portals, and the Dark Dimension can have their researcher. So let's officially clean this up. The game is over. So that was a respectable pushback by the Dark Dimension, and if Dormammu hadn't got unlucky and had taken Clint out, there would have been another turn for sure, and they would have started coming back. And I think the battle was turning in their favour in terms of defenders going down and staying down. But as things stand, defenders, Luke Cage is holding this for 2. Clint and Doctor Strange are holding that portal for 2. The Dark Dimension is holding the Researcher for 2. But that's obviously too little too late, because those 4 points put the defenders on exactly enough to win at the end of Battle Round 5 with 16. Dark Dimension, they only have 10, but as I say, had Clint gone down and this went into another turn, even if they still hadn't have won after that, it would have been very close. They were doing a good job of murdering people. And that was a very fun matchup. I think the defenders and the Dark Dimension go well up against each other. Of course, the Dark Dimension is super fluid, because Dormammu can bring whoever he likes. It doesn't matter. But with these high threat games, though, it let him bring someone tough like Omega Red, who had a pretty good game, I think. But anyway, hope you enjoyed watching. Thank you very much for doing so. We'll see you in the future for more. And we will see the Convocation affiliation eventually. Maybe next time, maybe after that. But we will see them soon. And there is an unboxing if you haven't seen that yet. Thanks for watching, and until next time, ta-ta for now.